So let's start with how the technology landscape is changing in the fund and asset management sector. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I would say customer expectations are changing a lot across the financial services industry. In recent years, we've seen open banking and across other industries and sectors as well. There's a whole new wave of web apps and quite rich digital experiences that customers are now used to. And I think that they enjoy them so much that they really expect similar interactions from some of the fund and asset management firms, which really has probably quite an old school stereotype. The way they interact with customers typically is not to say pen and paper, but definitely not up to the standards maybe of some of the other sort of micro sectors in financial services. So these organizations really need to start thinking about how they're going to leverage technology, and particularly cloud solutions, to really start offering more of these personalized services that the customers really have come to expect.
So what steps should these companies take to become more customer-centric?
Well, I think the obvious answer is to use the data that they've already got, and then you've got to be able to extract insights from that data and then use those insights to enrich the digital experience. It's sort of a flow that works like that. But really the challenge there, you have to go right back to the beginning, is how do you connect the data across maybe some of your newer shiny systems and tools, but also the legacy systems that plague a lot of organizations in this day and age, frankly. And only when you've connected that data can you really interpret it properly and then analyze it. That's the only way you're going to glean proper insight from it. But the second point I would add to that is that there's more data flowing through these systems than ever before. And that is only exponentially growing as companies add technology pieces to their arsenal, so to speak. But you need to be able to accommodate that influx of data, and otherwise you're going to hit bottlenecks. And as soon as you hit a bottleneck, you're going to get some bad customer experiences popping up. And with loyalty sort of thinning in 2024, you're going to lose some customers to your competitors, so not ideal.
So what's the solution for managing bandwidth effectively without overspending?
Well, look, many organizations are thinking along the right lines, right? They're planning for future needs. They're sort of over-provisioning perhaps, though, with their traditional telco providers, sort of making sure that they have capacity for the influx of data that's coming. But obviously with that, there's an overpaying for unused capacity issue, which becomes a big sort of capital expenditure problem for the finance department to have to clean up. So if you can partner with a supplier that meets you where you are and can grow with you a little bit more, you're going to be a lot more efficient, and you're going to be a lot more cost effective, and your CFO is going to like you a lot more.
So you mentioned traditional telco providers there. How and why are they becoming a bottleneck for fund and trust management organizations?
Well, I think the long deployment cycles that people maybe have got used to really can't be afforded anymore, perhaps. Business is just moving a little bit too fast now, particularly in the financial services sector. There's a lot of competition, fintechs coming in, and speed's really essential if you want to win customers. And especially as fund and asset management firms, for example, leverage sort of newer technology or maybe leverage multi-cloud strategies in an attempt to deliver those fit-for-purpose solutions to their customers. You end up with pinch points from the slow deployment processes with the traditional telcos, where you can't move fast enough. And the telcos are trying to catch up, but frankly, the size of them and they're obviously the business models that they've operated on for years limit their ability to be agile. So in the same way that fintechs come in and maybe innovate a little bit faster than some of the more traditional financial services firms, some of the smaller organizations in tech, like Cloud Gateway, for example, are able to innovate a little bit more on the networking side, and we can provide those fund and asset management businesses the flexibility they need as a tech-enabled MSP.
What about vendor lock-in with traditional telcos? How does Cloud Gateway help with that?
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly an issue. I think many of the larger telcos, you sort of end up with these lengthy sort of tie-in contracts that make it really, really difficult to pivot or scale particularly quickly. We talk about agility, we talk about speed, and it's difficult to do that tied in commercially like that. With someone like Cloud Gateway, once you're connected to our platform, those sort of 90-day waiting periods that we were talking about, that in some cases happen, are gone, and with the managed gateway you can have basically instant access to the services you want and the scalability that you need. So you can really start to adapt to those sort of fluctuations in consumer demands or whatever else is affecting the industry, and that way you're not going to be hindered by vendor constraints, which really shouldn't be an issue with this sort of level that we're talking about.
And why are fund and asset management firms turning to multi-cloud strategies?
Well, I think there's a few reasons really. I think the multi-cloud approach, obviously it gives you more options. It's much easier to deliver better service if you've got more options on the service you can provide to your customers. I think there's definitely a cost efficiency play. You can shift workloads to particular clouds that might be more cost effective for you. And I think even particularly within the financial services sector, there's some regulatory issues that can actually be eased with having those options between different clouds. So there's a few benefits there, of course, and hence why we're seeing many people sort of uptaking this sort of strategy. But there's a challenge there that's really quite fundamental that maybe isn't addressed always particularly well. And like we're talking about traditional telcos causing problems due to their slow deployment, a managed gateway like Cloud Gateway provides can be really valuable here, because you can start to actually open up the promise of multi-cloud where you weren't maybe being able to use them in a flexible manner, even though you've potentially got the capacity. But now you can use them, and you can really start to open up that promise, and it's no longer just a theory or a strategy. You can put it into practice.